Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Relationship Stories. In this video, we will hear the story of a man who hurt his sister and the secret that almost tore their family apart. From the brother's perspective, we will delve into the aftermath of his sister's actions and how he navigated the difficult situation. Let's get started. My wife is trans and we met for the first time after she fully medically and surgically transitioned. Nobody besides her family and my sister, who found out on her own, really knows this, and she wants to keep it that way. Anyway, we both wanted to have kids young, so we adopted our little girl before the pandemic started. Because of everything that's been going on, my parents didn't really get to meet her until last week. And my sister and her husband were also there. My parents are very conservative and they have been a bit disappointed about the fact that we adopted. Nothing really explicit but just subtle things. After they met our daughter, though, they melted a little because of how could you not? But they still wanted to know why we adopted. I felt a bit clever saying fertility issues. Because we do have fertility issues, just not the kind of my parents probably thought. My sister didn't say anything at the time, but she let loose on me later. I forgot that she has fertility issues. And she started yelling at me saying that she's been spending tens of thousands of dollars on in vitro, how depressed it's made her, how her marriage is on the rocks, and how she is traumatized from her miscarriages. I didn't know she had any. She told me that she trusted me with that end and that I'm immature. I told her that we technically do have fertility issues. And she said it's different because we chose to have ours and we knew what we were getting into. She said that it was not our issue to appropriate. All the women I dated before my wife were cis, but I didn't fall in love with any of them. I don't think I chose to fall in love with her, so that made me pretty upset. I would not have felt like I was in the wrong until my sister told me that I could have just said that. I felt like it would be better for the world to adopt. I still think it would have been met with a lot of suspicion and criticism from my parents, but that would have been the easiest way to avoid anybody getting hurt. Now I have built this unnecessary rift between my sister and I. My wife says that we do have fertility issues and she feels bad for my sister because of everything she is going through. But ultimately we have nothing to apologize for because we told the truth. I don't know what to think about this. Am I the a-hole? After this post, OP had some serious conversations in the comment section. We will see some of them to understand the issue in depth. Member 1 said, not the a-hole. Would not I felt like it would be better for the world to adopt. Also be judging your sister who went through IVF and miscarriages in the hope of having a biological child. You could not win here. That said, if you love your sister, find a way to reconcile. She has been through a lot and she lashed out in the way that was emotional and not rational. Don't waste precious time waiting for her to make the first move, even if she should. The OP's reply to this member is, thank you for responding. I love my sister very much. Right now, she says she doesn't want to speak to me, but I'm definitely going to checking upon her a bit better from now on. So many people have been talking about how in vitro affects your hormones, and I definitely understand how she is traumatized from her miscarriages. So I'm really not upset with her. I just hope we can repair things as soon as possible. I am a little bit afraid of her saying anything about my wife to our parents. Though she was judgmental when she found out about her being trans at first, but she grew into accepting it. And I just hope she doesn't take any steps backwards as far as that goes. I would find it hard to forgive anyone who targets my wife like that. The member 2 said, going in with a not the a-hole, I was with you all the way until your sister explained her side of it, and she kind of has a point. Your wife could have frozen sperm before the change and could have had children. You are fertile. This is not a fertility issue in the standard sense. You should have worded it differently, like we can't because a wife doesn't have a uterus, can't carry children, we can't get pregnant. Using something that you know is a sore subject for your sister means you owe her an apology. OP replied to this member, I agree with what you are saying and I do plan to apologize to my sister and support her. But I just wanted to say that freezing sperm was not really an option for my wife. All trans women have different experiences and my wife had extreme genital dysphoria pre-transitioning. Without going into too much detail, she used to self-harm that area and did not masturbate at all because it caused her severe mental distress. Producing the sperm would have been a painful and a difficult process. My fear with stuff like my wife doesn't have a uterus is that it might open up for more questions. But I will try to use we can't get pregnant to avoid difficulties in the future. Member 3 said, so unpopular here, but you're the a-hole. You are also a terrible sibling. Your sister confided to you about her infertility and you forgot. This is probably the central issue in her life and has been for years and you don't care about her enough to remember it. Even when you are claiming infertility as a way to avoid being honest with your parents about other things, given that you are both not telling your parents important things about your lives, infertility, wife is trans. If you had a conversation with your sister about you telling your parents that you and your wife are infertile, she might have been cool with that. You will never know now. So from your sister's perspective, you made a kind of joke out of part of her life that is causing her a huge amounts of pain. You have also made it harder for her to tell your mutual parents about her infertility and get taken seriously because you and your wife appear to have infertility and not be having problems copying. I'm not a huge fan of people claiming infertility to get off conversations about having children or not having children. But I get how it happens in some families. However, doing that when you give a sibling who is struggling with actual involuntary infertility is a jerk move. Neither you nor your wife are involuntarily infertile. You are completely fertile as far as you know now, and your wife traded fertility for something she wanted more. We don't call people who have had vasectomies infertile, nor do we call gay couples infertile. Your wife's desire to carry a child is a dysphoria issue, not an infertility issue. OP's reply to this member is, I'm willing to accept that I could be the a-hole, but could you not step to calling me a terrible sibling? This one instance is not a representative of my entire life. And name calling in general just is not very nice. My sister never confided in me with details or anything. She is mentioned in passing maybe once that she is trying for kids and having difficulties. I care about her and what goes on in her life, but I really did not know the extent of the fertility issues. And I take issue with you referring to my wife's infertility as voluntary. She didn't choose to be trans, and like I said in other comments, this was a matter of life or death for her. She has confided in me that if she had not fully medically transitioned, she would be dead by now. She is infertile and it definitely was not a choice for her. Now, before seeing the final update from OP, let me tell you about my opinion. To be honest, it seems that OP made a mistake in using their sister's pain as a cover for their own decision to adopt. The sister's anger and hurt are understandable and it may be necessary for the OP to apologize and make amends. The situation is further complicated by the fact that the OP's wife is trans and they have kept this fact hidden from their conservative parents. Ultimately, it is up to the OP to decide how to proceed, but it may be helpful to seek out counseling or therapy to navigate these complex family dynamics. It is also important to consider the feelings and perspectives of others involved, including the wife, the child, and the conservative parents. The update from the OP after 3 months is, so it's been about 3 months since the incident in the post. Our daughter is still the most precious girl in the world, and my wife was very complimented by a few of the commenters, even though at the end of the day I don't think it was wrong to refer it as fertility issues. I apologized to my sister once she cooled down anyway. She's been going through a lot. Sometimes things are not about being right so much as they are about family. Thanks to everyone who told us we had nothing to apologize about though. My sister forgave us and we hugged it out. She even apologized about telling her she was appropriating issues, which honestly offended me the most. But that was not the end of it. My wife could not get rid of his nagging feeling that maybe something could go wrong again and my sister or her husband would tell my parents. So she told me she wanted to come out to them. It was a hard decision for us because I love them and I was terrified they would disown me and spread gossip about her. But what can I say? My wife owns me. It's her over everyone else for me. She kept getting scared every time we agreed. We were going to say something and it ended up coming out when my mom was telling my wife how much I cried when I broke my arm. She said the most she ever cried was getting a soccer ball launched into her balls. I love my wife. She had to explain it a bit to them and they are still a little uncomfortable. But nothing has really changed. At first they were horrified but they always really liked her and I guess they could not just erase that. Especially after she explained her situation to them. If anything I had say she's made them a bit more open-minded. And I actually got my sister and her husband looking into adoption. Everybody wants a daughter like ours.